In a 10 Missing Children's Incident 2, Electric Boogaloo. Based on the first trailer line of your friends are right here, they're worried about you, or something along those lines, I can't quite remember, it's been ages. I think we'll be dealing with another missing children's incident this time around, but instead of 1985, it's gonna be 2025 or whatever year this is meant to take place in. Is it 35? Because it takes place at least 4 years after FNAF 6 thanks to the time measurements in Fazbear Fright's Man Room 1280, and then that took place after FNAF 3, which was in 2023, so like 2027 at the earliest. But even still, the actual date doesn't matter, because if we really want to make Vanny as menacing and dangerous as Afton, we need to up her kill count. And currently, it's like 0, so like we need to get those rookie numbers up. Like, why is it even that low? Everyone has a higher kill count than that. The kind of kill where you end someone's life, not the other kind that people are typically referring to. You should see me in Blatant Sorcery, man. I've killed so many people in that game. And at 9, Nightmare Sequence. With the appearance of those mini Rena clones, it would totally be possible to see some form of nightmare sequence in this game. Those small little can only be described as mini Renas, and with their chests saying it's all in your dreams, it seems to suggest that there will be some form of dream moment, either because we get possessed by a glitch trap and need to fight our way back into our mind, or because we help Vanny do this. This could also explain why the original arm at the end of the first trailer looks so much like Nights At Freddy's arm. Maybe it was just the start of this nightmare sequence that Afton creates, instead of a robot that's being possessed by Afton, which would also help to explain the purple light that reflects off the arm, since it was created by Afton. So I think it's definitely possible to see a few good old classic nightmare animatronics while they try and make us cry, which for me will probably work if this is the case, just because of the lore implications. And at 8, minigames. Now, whether or not there will be minigames like laser tag is still up in the air at the time of recording. However, 8-bit minigames are a staple in the FNAF community, and honestly are some of the most crucial parts that reveal the most lore about the games. The 8-bit minigames revealed the first victim, the detailed origins of the puppet, and even what William did after killing Charlotte, for God's sakes. The mini-games have been incredibly instrumental in figuring out the absolute bonkers lore of the series. The 8-bit mini-games are even crucial in finding the good ending of FNAF 3, since we had to complete the Happiest Day mini-game in order to get the good or canon ending and release the souls of the original 5 missing children. And given that this game is going to have multiple paths with presumably a good ending, these could come in handy. So the mini-games have become an integral part of the series, and to omit them from this game would be a mistake and a disservice to the series. So there better be both 8-bit mini-games and actual laser tag. I'm still counting on that one. And at 7, fixes. Okay, I think it's safe to say that everyone who has played this game, either online or on their own, has experienced some form of glitch, or most likely multiple glitches. Markiplier experienced so many that there's actually a compilation of every time he ran into one. MapHat ran into glitches, Eddie VR and Juicy ran into glitches, even I did. I ended up glitching myself back into the daycare, for crying out loud, not even intentionally. And not to mention the whole a load of areas don't like to load. And the animatronic AI, let's face it, isn't the best. So I think we're due for some bug fixes. And while they may have updated things a bit to improve the performance, I just played it last week and had some serious issues. So I think that if we're getting a DLC, especially one we may have to pay for, that we are going to need some bug fixes. Although there is no way that we should actually have to pay for these bug fixes. Hell, we shouldn't even have to pay for a DLC if it's just putting the rest of the originally intended game into our game. But I have a feeling that we are going to have to pay for that. And at 6, Into the Pit. Seeing a giant ball pit for the first time in an actual FNAF game that wasn't when you had to buy it interests me, specifically because of the Fazbear Frights book Into the Pit and the story of the same name. Since in that story we see Oswald, who ends up time traveling between 2011 and 1985 by jumping into a ball pit in his local pizzeria that actually used to be a Freddy Fazbear joint. And honestly, the book being released and then a ball pit appearing in the next FNAF game doesn't really seem to be a coincidence. So maybe it won't be as extreme as nearly 30 years, but maybe we could at least use that as a way to quickly transition from morning to night if we need to. At least like after we've completed the game, maybe, like how in Boneworks you can unlock areas in sandbox mode and you can kind of do whatever you want. Hopefully this is like a cheat or something that we can enable even if it doesn't end up being canon. However, the inclusion of cheats could be a whole other thing. If we're gonna have Afton come back, we could do it with time travel. Halfway through, in at number 5, FNAF AR. FNAF AR Special Delivery is certainly an interesting game, but the animatronics present in that game are even more interesting. With skins like Clown Springtrap and Arctic Ballora, it's always cool to see new takes on our favorite animatronics. Get it? Because she's Arctic. However, the cooler thing would be to see these animatronics in Security Breach. I mean, we've already seen some of them in the Furry's Rage video game, which saw us fighting waves of enemies throughout the Pizzaplex, so why not just put them in the main game? Especially some of the fan-made versions from that game, because those are way cooler than anything in the actual game itself, okay? It could help explain why the animatronics that should be dealt with are back, especially since it's an argument as to why any of these animatronics should actually be added, because it would mess with the lore of what we already know. See yesterday's list for me using that reason multiple times to explain why even some of these animatronics on this list shouldn't be added to the game. But hey, I'm all about contradicting myself, okay? It gets people talking in the comments. Speaking of which, who do you want to see in Security Breach? Who isn't like actually like confirmed? Like, don't say, oh, I'm looking forward to seeing No, don't do that. Who do you want to see in Security Breach who isn't confirmed yet? Let me know that you actually made it this far into the video by answering that question in the comments. And for death, I can guarantee that someone is dying in this game. Either it's Gregory or Vanny/Vanessa, but someone is not making it out of this building alive. I 100% expect that one of the main characters of this game, be it pro or antagonist, will end up getting killed or dying accidentally in the case of Vanny, so that we as Gregory, a child, haven't killed someone directly. Kind of like how in every game, the fire starts mysteriously and we're never really the one to do it to kind of save the player's morality, or I guess to keep the game rating down. I'm not sure which one. Either way, I'm sure someone is going to be dying in this game, and not just if we get caught by animatronics. I am willing to put money on the fact that someone is going to die, and in my mind, I hope it's Afton. I don't want to deal with this man anymore. I'm straight up done with him. Getting close to the end in number 3, deliver pizzas. The mini game that opens FNAF 6 isn't like anything else we've seen. Okay, well, it's kind of like Take Cake, but this time you're throwing pizzas at kids' screaming faces, and honestly, I love that idea. The fantasy of throwing a pizza in the screaming kid's face has been present ever since those little buggers in my old building bounced their basketball off my door and made my dog go absolutely nuts. But even without my secret thoughts, this would still be a fun arcade game, and I'm not letting you fight me on this. The difficulty of the game was already defined even before the real FNAF 6 started, and it was cool. But then throw in added difficulty of it being a full game and you have a whole new experience. At least, I think it would be at least, so can't be sure unless we try. Penultimately, in at number 2, the Stitch Wraith. Seeing the Stitch Wraith is very unlikely, but I would certainly enjoy seeing an appearance from this character, even if it's in like a nightmare sequence like I suggested earlier, or maybe even as a brief passerby in a window. It's not impossible, but I do think this one isn't likely to happen. But it would certainly be cool to just be looking out a window or something in the Pizzaplex, and then having an animatronic that in essence looks like the Nightmare mini arenas with pizza sauce around the mouth, staring back at you, but then just kind of like running away or just disappearing. And if that does happen, I'm going to be scared of the ball pit for the rest of the game, because at that rate, everything from Fazbear Frights is basically going to be canon. And I think that if that does happen, it's going to open a whole new dimension for these games that we won't be pleased with. And finally, in at number 1, Afton's return. I think that, unfortunately, Afton being resurrected or returning in some form or another is inevitable. I don't get why. I think at this point we should just move on from this killer and have a whole new one, but a load of people seem to think that we need Afton back. I put a poll up on a list of Vanny facts we know during the premiere, and even though the video was about Vanny, only 51% of people thought that she was better than Glitch Trap. And I think that speaks volumes as to who the favorites of the series are. Like, I understand we've grown up with Afton as the killer, but hell, we didn't even used to know his name until Sister Location. Like, until that point, we were calling him the purple guy. We've known this man's name for 4 games. That's like half the time the series has been out. The first 4 games didn't have him, or well, like it didn't have his name. He wasn't even a character in the very first game, just a mysterious man that Matt Pat compared to Nathan Dunlap. Hell, he even thought that it was us in Purgatory, before the explanation of Remnant came from the books, where we coincidentally learned Afton's name. But I think that we're bound to get William back this time, but I still don't want it to happen. Don't do it. In its end, mini-games. I think that while yes, mini-games in the context of this game don't really make sense, a separate area that could perhaps take place before the main game, like during that day, would be interesting. Where we explore the Pizzaplex while it's in day mode, and something like that would be really cool. Like being able to actually see the entire Pizzaplex without all those damn security bots and, you know, the risk of death. And we'd be able to play all the various minigames too. Like we could play the golf and laser tag and bowling and do whatever we actually wanted to do. It would be incredibly fun, and honestly, combine this with the next number and we'd have one hell of a game. Plus, playing Gator Golf on an arcade machine is totally different than playing golf on the actual Monty course. I don't think the two courses are the same, which is unfortunate because the one in the actual Monty Golf area looks awesome. Kinda want that in real life, if I'm being honest. Is there like one of those like golf with friends? Is there like a custom map that is the Monty Gator Golf from the Pizzaplex? Because I'd play that. I don't have any friends. In at 9 multiplayer. Now, with a working Pizzaplex, there comes the idea that doing this with friends would be an amazing time. And honestly, this is one of the things we've been wanting for ages. While a multiplayer FNAF didn't really make sense before, with a working Pizzaplex, it would make the most sense. Being able to explore the Pizzaplex during the day with friends and even random people online would be awesome. And honestly, if it isn't in a FNAF DLC, I'm sure someone is going to make this happen in like VR chat or Rec Room or something like that. However, if this was in a real FNAF game, I think it would be the most benefit. Even need VR to play in, despite what the name of the game would suggest. So it would be better for fans, unless this came out as like a free DLC of some sort. Which honestly, considering how the game was released unfinished from what I've seen and heard online, a DLC that actually fixed things and gives us the rest of the game better be free. It better just be like an update or something. Still, multiplayer Pizzaplex would be perfect. In at 8, achievements. Now don't get me wrong, this game has plenty of achievements, and some pretty damn difficult ones at that. But seeing some more wouldn't be a horrible idea. I mean, it would give achievement hunters and completionists more to do, and it would give the YouTubers who've already done the game to death more to play. Which, let's face it, it will help everyone in the long run. Okay, creators will have more content to film, Scott will have more eyes on the series for whoever's taking over next, and fans will have something to watch while we just try to ignore the millions of different tasks that we actually have to do instead of watching YouTube. Plus, it'll make it worth the $50 price tag even more. I feel like it's basically a guarantee that if we do get some form of DLC that will be adding content, we'll also be getting new achievements, because like it's basically impossible to avoid that unless this DLC is just fixing what's broken and not actually anything new. Hopefully we get something new along with some bug fixes, but maybe they're taking the Skyrim approach to this so that 10 years from now they can release a FNAF Security Breach Anniversary Edition while they take 25 years to make the next FNAF game. I'm not salty at all. And at 7, escape. I think it is definitely inevitable that we see Gregory escape in this game. Whether it's the canon ending or not, I think that it's kind of required that there be some kind of good ending where we get away unscathed. Or at least not dead. Unscathed and not dead are two very different things. So with this in mind, I think an ending or two where Gregory actually escapes via the doors opening at 6 or through the underground are definitely required. But I'm not sure if it will be the canon ending. It would be a shame if just like in FNAF VR we're meant to lose and we can't really escape no matter what. So there really should be a way for us to get out alive. And if there isn't, then I'm gonna be mad. And I'm sure plenty of other people will as well. Actually, now that I say that, based on the comments of videos, I don't think anyone will really be upset about that. A lot of people just basically worship Scott in the FNAF series. So if they did something like that, they would be fine with it. I'm not though. I'll be mad, Scott. And at 6, new ending. While yes, we already do have a canon ending to the game, I feel like there are other things going on, alright? Having a canon ending doesn't discount additional endings from being added, since they could help indicate to us what's going on in this game, or give us something else that could just be a fun thing to achieve, like a joke ending of sorts that gives us something to laugh about. Like if we got an ending that ended up just being the ending from FNAF 1, or Henry's speech from FNAF 6, just something fun that would also make sense, since if it doesn't, we all know for a fact that we would go absolutely ballistic and tear it to shreds. Or maybe we could get an ending where William Afton actually dies, even if it's not the canon one, so I can finally sleep soundly at night. Like, they have the death animations, right? Like, might as well put them to good use. Plus, him dying could be like my alarm in the morning, or like the lullaby I play to fall asleep, as long as it's not a jump scare noise. Because waking up to a jump scare may be a good way to make sure that you don't go back to sleep, but I'm kind of off the whole self-torture thing for the sake of everyone else. Yeah, been there, done that. No thanks. Halfway through into number 5, arcade cabinets. With the Pizzaplex having their own arcade section, like basically any Chuck E. Cheese would, the idea of the arcade games, or at least a couple of them actually working, would be pretty cool. Especially things like pinball or something. This could also be a great way to introduce the 8-bit minigames into this style of game, since Between Nights doesn't really seem like it's gonna happen when the game only looks like it's planned to be like a one night long kind of thing. And in addition to that, this would also be an interesting way way to incorporate my ideas of how they could make like a real life Freddy Fazbear's, where they had like the custom arcade games about Midnight Motorist and Fruity Maze and whatnot. So maybe we'll end up seeing a couple of our old favorites in this new game. Hell, this could really just be the most successful pizzeria that someone made in Pizzeria Simulator, and then that's why there's a ball pit and like imagery of Helpy plastered on seemingly everything, which would be funny as hell. Like this whole pizzaplex came from one person that Henry used to try to lure William to his death, and now William's just using it to get to Gregory for whatever reason. That'd be an interesting theory. In at 4, Bonnie. Bonnie was missing from security breach, having been destroyed most likely by Monty, but perhaps getting to investigate Bonnie's disappearance and being able to change how things go with the security breach lineup would certainly be an interesting mission. If we were meant to like truly investigate it, that is, like turn the DLC into a bit of a detective game, I think that would really be a compelling and fun storyline. And from what I've seen, we all just want justice for Bonnie, especially since we want Papa Freddy to be reunited with Bonnie, since he seemingly really misses him, considering the dialogue from the first recharge station, when Gregory asks about Vanny and Freddy says, "There is no bunny at this pizzaplex, not anymore," in a very somber way. Plus, like I've seen enough animatronic alligator thirst traps on TikTok that I kind of want Monty gone at this point. Like, yes, it was only the one thirst trap, okay, but it was for Monty. That's rough, man. I don't need that. One is too many. Oh, why do we live in a world where animatronic alligator thirst trap makes sense? Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Nightmare Glam Rocks. Nightmare versions are designed to be the scariest versions of their respective animatronic, and you know what? I get it. That's why there are so many fan-made versions of them, because while elements like rugged exosuits and stomach mouths are common, you can only do so much with those. You can head anywhere else from your own imagination, same with scrap versions. However, these Nightmare versions are something else. Considering their pristine appearance in the trailers and promo images, well, with the exception of Chica, there is a stark contrast between these two versions. The normal Glam Rocks and the Nightmare Glam Rocks, jeez. There just seems to be the ultimate nightmare aesthetic going on with these characters specifically, even more so than like Twisted Funtime Freddy. I don't know why these animatronics specifically make me think that way, but maybe it's because like Glamrock Chica is my babe, but like now, even still. Glamrock Bonnie isn't even a thing yet, but their Nightmare Glamrock is, I still want it in the game. But with the amount of jackassery that comes from these FNAF games, I wouldn't doubt it if Scott just threw these in to make a more solid connection between Gregory and Crying Child. Either because it's canon or because he wants to mess with us. Because that's something he would do, especially when he's leaving and the person next to him, or the person after him, has to clean up his mess. And ultimately, in at number 2, Chica's Feeding Frenzy. The arcade conspiracy gets its name from one of the duffel bags that you can find where we learn about something else that seems to be going on here. Quote from this arcade conspiracy note. Exit interview. They're working together. The arcades. They're hiding something. The glitches. Glitch them all at the same time, then the princess will recognize me. She's testing me. I am not yet worthy. The others are protecting it. Let me stay. I am so close. Just one more night, please. I can save the princess. Now it's clear that this seems to be referring to the Princess Quest games, however it doesn't seem like we have to glitch the Princess Quest games in order to win. We just have to beat them in order from 1 to 3 and then boom, we save Vanny. So what could this mean? Well, there are 3 other arcade machines that seem to be having mysterious glitches as well. The Balloon Boy World game that you can find in the theater, well in a secret room in the theater, Chica's Feeding Frenzy which won't turn off even when unplugged that you can find in the bakery, and Monty Golf a arcade that according to its duffel bag shouldn't be in the mini golf area, but is. However, while you can play both Balloon Boy World and the Monty Golf game, Chica's Feeding Frenzy isn't an arcade cabinet. You can only access it using a mod that lets you cheat it in from the main menu. So adding this to the game could mean that there's something bigger going on than a simple DLC, which I would love. And finally, in at number 1, level 10 security access. Now, the highest level of security access that you can get is level 8. This just requires you to do every one of the little security room minigames. However, with level 8 being the highest you can actually achieve, it begs the question, why are there doors with level 10 security? Because if it's impossible to achieve, what's the point of giving them a security level at all? There are plenty of other doors in the game that are locked or out of order that don't open at all. So why not just make the doors that would have been level 10 just unopenable, okay? That seems more efficient to me. I don't have to walk up and get a giant thing on my screen that says level 10 access required. But, like, the thing is, they could be saving these areas for a potential DLC. That would end up having to add 2 more security passes. Since if you actually end up no-clipping through the doors with level 10 access, there is nothing behind them at all. It would be nice to get some additional areas in a DLC. And, like, a separate area seems a bit unrealistic. This isn't Skyrim where you can add, like, a whole new world space or a dimension. So, these level 10 areas would give us that extra sense of new content while also expanding the Pizzaplex in a reasonable way. We'd need 2 more security minigames though, which would have to be in additional areas, but I mean, hey, I'm willing to take that. And a 10 Pirate Ride. Given that this is already in the style of a game in FNAF VR, certainly does help in porting this to an arcade cabinet, but there would be some things that they'd have to change, like turning it into one of those like classic shooter arcade games where the screen scrolls as you fight off bad guys threatening innocent civilians, and it tells you what to shoot and what not to shoot. Yeah, that's the kind of arcade game I see this as, except instead of scrolling sideways, it moves forward like the cart does in the ride in FNAF VR. It could just be a simple aim and shoot kind of thing, but maybe they could add some animatronics sneaking in and throwing some cake or pizza at you that you'd have to shoot to block. This would be in order to end the game early, so that you'd then have to pay more tokens, or just straight up money depending on how the system was run, but based on modern practices I think it would be a token system because it probably would end up making them more money in the long run. And at 9, Fun with Plush Trap. Fun with Plush Trap is a simple game that would operate much like it did in FNAF 4 for the arcade cabinet. Despite having more of a presence in FNAF VR, the simplicity of the controls in FNAF 4 would be exactly how this game operates, just in an arcade cabinet, which would require you to just push a button to get the light to shine, and then you let go of it to turn it off and allow Plush Trap to move, giving you the 60-second countdown to a jump scare if you fail to stop him before the timer, or if he gets to you before you stop him. It's a simple game with a simple premise, but it would work incredibly well for an arcade machine, and I think plenty of people would play it. And maybe you could have like multiple levels like Donkey Kong style, with various smaller nightmare animatronics like Fun with Nightmare Balloon Boy, Fetch, Mini Arenas, etc. Assuming that Plush Trap isn't a form of Fetch already. And today, Plush Babies. The 2 Plush Baby mini games where you have to look around for the various somehow animated baby plushes before they get to you is an interesting concept that with some tweaking could work for an arcade cabinet. It would require a joystick as the spotlight following the joystick, you just move it around to move the spotlight, but it's something that I think would work kinda well, but it would have to be done right. I don't know exactly what done right would look like. I'm an ideas guy, okay, I'm not a programmer, but I'm sure that it wouldn't be that difficult to work out, I hope. It wouldn't be as detailed or scary as the main minigame in FNAF VR, but it would still be something that would work decently well. It may not be the most popular game at the arcade, but that's why you have multiple levels including the hard mode one and the DLC one in the pumpkin patch. Plus, that's why it's only number 8, because it would be harder to get done properly. And it's 7, Fixed Spring Trap or Scrap Trap. Fixed Scrap Trap doesn't sound scary at first, and then you see what some fans have done with this design, and then you crap your pants. The eyes for many of these versions is what makes it unsettling. The fact that everything on this animatronic looks put together and almost brand new, save for the fact that you can still kinda tell that there's someone in the suit, is off-putting. And someone who might not even really be doing well and is likely dead yeah. The contrast of the clean suit with the manic eyes of it, there's something very unhinged about this version. I'm getting the vibes for that, really. And including this in the game could serve as William's new body, because I'm pretty sure he will unfortunately be coming back, despite my constant pleas to kill him off permanently, because for some reason everyone thinks we'll be able to redeem Vanny, which means that we'll need a villain, but I don't think so. I don't think there's any saving this bitch. And at 6, Claw Machine. This is pretty dark, but you people seem to love that kind of thing. So, what about a claw machine that was designed to be Baby while she was grabbing Elizabeth? Is that too far? Like a claw machine that's built to look like the baby animatronic on the outside with a window on the stomach where the claw would come out. And that's where the claw machine is. I think that would not only be a fun way to make it a FNAF themed claw machine, but it would also be dark as hell, and I love that kind of thing. Plus, it's about a fictional death, so it's not really distasteful. The idea also stands that this is something out of the box for this list, and I wanted to see what you thought about it, rather than just ranting on about the various minigames in the series for 10 minutes. However, it's time to get back to that, so moving on! Halfway through into number 5, Ritual. Just like I expect to see an escape of some sort in this game, I'm certain that there will also be a ritual of some sort in an attempt to bring William back, or maybe even destroy him. The games have been put in a really weird situation now that William has become sentient code. Usually to get rid of remnant-based creatures, we would have to burn whatever it's possessing. But being sentient code, you can't really burn it, especially if he's able to replicate himself, which I don't personally believe he is or should be able to do. In reality, William's stance depends on if they release the Freddy Fazbear Virtual Experience game, despite the virus present within, the game that we were testing in FNAF VR. If they did, we're all screwed, because William has basically infinite consciousnesses, and thanks to that game being distributed. But if they didn't release it, then we're okay and only dealing with one instance of Afton, that we will somehow need to burn if this is truly Remnant. If it's not Remnant, then we have no idea how to deal with him. So there would have to be some kind of ritual if it's impossible to burn him in order to destroy him. Perhaps like the Happiest Day minigame, but Afton edition, where we like recreate the missing children's incident or something so he gets so happy that he moves on. And at 4, Security Puppet. Ah yes, Security Puppet. One of the 3 mini-games required to play through to completion for the Lore Keeper ending of FNAF 6. And let's be honest, you should always play mini-games through to completion, otherwise it's just mean. The Security Puppet minigame was pretty simple. Keep the assigned child away from the exit. However, the only catch is that there was no assigned child until the 3rd time booting up the game, where the child will already be outside, thus you failing. We know that this child is Charlie, who goes on to possess the puppet, and this was the only time we've seen a kill from 2 different angles. However, a game kind of like a Where's Waldo kind of thing with security bracelets seems like a wonderful and simple idea, especially when we know what the character is really trying to prevent. Would there be a green bracelet character, or would we only be looking for the green band? I don't know, it would be up to Scott. Also, Scott, or I guess whoever takes over next, please do this. Getting close to the end in number 3, go-karting. Roxanne seems to be the speed demon of this game, only further enhancing her connection to Foxy. However, with this comes her go-karting track, which we've seen briefly in one of the trailers from what I remember, but we've also gotten a closer look at with some promotional photos unlocked during Daco's charity livestream. But come on, a freaking go-kart racing track would be absolutely incredible. This FNAF game has the ability to cross so many genres if they do this properly. Like, if things work out and they play this right, Security Breach could open a whole load of people to the world of FNAF just because of the variety present within the minigames. And if you need to play through the story to unlock those minigames, then they have to get immersed in the story and the gameplay of the actual series as well, and not just playing it like for like Mario Kart but FNAF. Imagine that though, like a Mario Kart FNAF where you play as like Gregory or other various animatronics, even unlocking them as playable characters as you progress through the story. I mean, it's probably not going to happen. Especially not like that. And we're probably hyping this game up way too much for it to reasonably meet expectations, but that's what happens when you get a fan base that's absolutely this freaking bonkers, Scott. So, good job. Maybe you should have just given us the lore straight up. Penultimately, in number 2, Midnight Motorist. Midnight Motorist is another one of those games that you could test in FNAF 6 that just feels right. The game is pretty simple, but it's certainly exactly what we need in an arcade cabinet at a pizzeria. A game for the short attention span of a child. You simply drive around until you run into 3 things, then boom, it's game over. You get tickets based on how far you went, or it's one of those lame ones where you don't get tickets at all because there's no feasible way to calculate that, which would also be kind of understandable. Or you just get 3. You know the ones I'm talking about. Midnight Motorist would make a good arcade game aside from the whole yellow guy mustard man debacle, so cut that part out and you're in the money, baby. Go forth and collect the king's tax of tickets and tokens. And finally, in at number 1, Fruity Maze. Fruity Maze, I think, was the obvious first choice here because while yes, the game does progressively get darker, it doesn't have to. You can stick to the original like level 1 Fruity Maze motif. Add a proper goal or objective and then have a weird FNAF version of a Pac-Man style game. Boom, you're done. Just don't make it depressing and allow the player to continue as long as they can, just like a normal Pac-Man game would work, and you're good. And you're golden. Golden Bonnie, dare I say. And maybe throw in a certain level where it's like the messed up dog, flowers, and blood kind of thing just to make sure it's authentic, because knowing these comments, you'll all be disappointed and even get mad if these things don't turn into something dark and twisted. I don't know about something like new being added to the series in the real world, but like, I don't know if you'd want that to be twisted and disturbing. Like if it was a new arcade game, for example, but something like Fruity Maze, you'd insist on it. So yeah, I know you're all sick. bastards, and I love you for it. And at 10, Marco Polo. Honestly, this is just because it's kind of on my bucket list. I want to play a game of Marco Polo in the ball pit a la Sheldon Cooper and Leonard Hofstadter in Big Bang Theory, when Sheldon broke into like a children's play place at like 3 a.m. to use the balls in the ball pit as like hydrogen atoms to like visualize stuff. It's the same episode as the classic I don't need sleep, I need answers meme, which will honestly be me when Security Breach comes out. That's gonna be interesting. Oh man, I'm gonna recreate that meme a whole bunch. At the end of the episode though, Sheldon is shown running around the ball pit, popping out behind Leonard saying bazinga, and then going back down into the balls before popping his head up again behind him. This is what I want to do in Security Breach. I don't even need a full-on minigame. I just need this to be a actual mechanic in the game, and I'll be happy. Like if Chica follows us into the ball pit, like we should have the option to like, I can't believe I have to say this, but like hide in the balls, which sounds weird, but technically that's what we were all doing before we were born, am I right? Well, I mean half of us anyway. And at 9, hide and seek. Okay, technically this number is cheating because the whole point of this game is basically will be to playing hide and seek with these animatronics, but I mean like something to do in the day part of the game, because like while yes the story picks up at night and that's what we've been seeing in the trailers, we'll need an explanation as to why Gregory didn't leave with his parents and why he's at the place alone. Additionally, it appears like we'll be having a day-night cycle to the game, so we'll need something to do during the day, even if it's only for the first few minutes of the game. So will we find ourselves playing hide and seek with other AI children, and that's why we end up being separated from our parents because we're playing hide and seek? Plus, it would also serve as an easy way to introduce the mechanics that we'll be using throughout the entire playthrough with this minigame, because again, this whole game is basically going to be hide and seek. So honestly, I think it's a pretty solid idea, but knowing FNAF, it's never what I think. It's a day off at least. And at 8, tag. I know you may think this sounds stupid, but tag or some game like that with these animatronics would be interesting as hell. With the various different animatronic abilities from the looks with Monty's strength and most importantly Roxy's speed, classic children's games like tag or hide and seek like I just mentioned are definitely a fun addition. And let's be real, okay? Kids at a Pizzaplex like this are going to be playing these games anyway. And if FNAF wanted to finally introduce a multiplayer element to this game, this would be the way to do it. By having like crab style minigames with classic children's games. Maybe having someone be an animatronic instead of a kid, like whoever is it would be Roxy or another animatronic, each with a different ability or something. Or in hide and seek, whoever is searching is also an animatronic. I mean, I don't know. It could be a good way to introduce a multiplayer element to the series that's been understandably single player so far. However, with Vanny saying that she has all of our friends in the first FNAF teaser ever for this game, could that really have been Steel Wool hinting at multiplayer minigames online? And at 7, Happiest Day. The Happiest Day minigame is some of the most important lore and moments in the series, with the original missing children from the first missing children's incident from 1985 getting their souls released, showing that there are multiple ways to deal with what would later be called Remnant, the infusion of metal and soul, or rather metal and extreme emotion, or maybe in Springtrap's case, metal. Get it? Because his human meat is also in the suit. Never mind. Either way, the Happiest Day minigame is not a simple one-shot minigame. There's some build-up to it. It's like the main story of FNAF 3, so seeing those various minigames and glitches come together into a single arcade cabinet would be a beautiful sight. Almost as beautiful as Glamrock Chica. I mean, as my idea for a real FNAF pizzeria, which you should go totally watch, by the way. It's in one of the corners. I don't know which one anymore. And at 6, animatronic boxing. Like, okay, I doubt this will happen, but I really, straight up, just want to have a full-on fight scene between us as Freddy and another animatronic. Probably Monty because he seems to be the strongest character, but I picture a fight like Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. I want it so bad. It's certainly an interesting thing that I want to happen, and based on what we've seen in the various trailers, it's not going to happen at all. But this is the kind of thing I want from a FNAF game. I want to beat the ever-loving snot out of these animatronics with my own bare hands. Or I guess, in the case of a Freddy mech, my own bare hands. Get it? Cause he's a bear? No, okay, fine, just be lame. But like, imagine an animatronic boxing ring with like the kids on the outside cheering while we watch animatronics tussle or even like do it ourselves. That should be a whole separate game on its own. Great, now I want someone to make a FNAF Rock'em Sock'em Robots. If someone's doing that on Etsy, I'll buy it. Halfway through, into number 5, confirmation. Now, we have had a lot of theories about the various aspects of this game, but with all the conflicts, we know that there isn't really going to be a way to solve this without more information. So, what's really the deal going on here, alright? That question is preferably going to be answered if we get a DLC. I mean, Scott himself said that he likes to explain any misconceptions with games in the next one. He did it with FNAF 4's date and the sister location code of 1983, and with FNAF VR's DLC to show that Glitch Trap was intended to be William with the purple car in the FNAF 4 house. So, we could reasonably see some confirmation of some ideas in a security breach DLC. Preferably the question of what's the relationship between Vanessa and Gregory, or if Gregory is meant to be a robot and or crying child. Those are probably some of the biggest questions that we really have and would help us solve some of the other issues. Because let's face it, how William came back yet again is of little consequence, and so are various other questions. The biggest ones that we have are about the pro and antagonists. Plus, I just want to be able to say that I've been calling Gregory being a robot for years. Actually, no, it's more like a year. Ever since the Funko statue came out. Okay, I called it. And at 4, bowling. Bonnie seems to be not appearing in Security Breach, however, they'll be there in spirit. They'll also be there as the mascot of the bowling alley that seemingly appears on the upper level of the Pizzaplex's main area. I don't expect this to be like Wii bowling, although that would be fun as hell. But instead, if there is a bowling minigame, I think it would just be like a simple, like, you grab it and then you throw it and just kind of hope you hit some pins. Nothing too extreme with like a scoring system or anything, but just some small time fun, you know? Like how if you're playing Gary's mod and a map you're playing on during like TTT or something has a bowling alley kind of thing, like TTT underscore or bowling alley, for example. Man, I just realized how few people may actually know what I'm talking about and know what Gary's mod is, and not know the joy that is Yugs Cast TTT videos. Wow, I feel old now. Let's move on before my hair turns gray on camera. Jeez. Getting close to the end, and in number 3, Vanny's redemption. It was a theory a while ago that the main goal of this game would be to redeem Vanny, to stop her from killing anyone or resurrecting Afton before it was too late. And while this doesn't seem like it's going to be a main point of the game, I wouldn't be surprised if something like this was just going to happen as a cause of the story path we take. In the most recent trailer, we do have a clip of Vanny emerging from the darkness and telling us to shush with the finger over the mouth pose. So perhaps this is just simply a plot point in the game that is inevitable, but not something that is impossible. So since I do expect this to be a plot point, because honestly Scott doesn't want any other killer that isn't William, and is probably only doing this because he backed himself into a corner with how everything has played out in the series, which honestly makes me think that he doesn't know what's going on in the series either, and he just leaves it vague so that he can do whatever he wants to next, so I get it. But ultimately, in number 2, mini golf. Thanks to trailers and some stills from promo images, we know that Montgomery Gator is going to have his own form of mini golf course in the Mega Pizzaplex, meaning hopefully that we'll get some form of mini golf minigame. Mostly because with everything being shut down, I need my ability to mini golf. Plus, every girl I suggest it to ends up ghosting me. So if I can't do it in real life, I better damn well be able to do it in Security Breach. I mean, the game was delayed not only due to COVID, but originally because Steelwool wanted to make the game bigger than Scott's original scope, right? So maybe they figured if we're adding all these sections, maybe we should make them into playable mini games and like a special daytime Pizzaplex minigame menu or something from like the home screen or something like that. I feel like that's an incredibly missed opportunity if it doesn't happen. If this game is going to cost as much as I think it will, given the current retail price of new console games being around $80, this better have hours worth of content and replayability, okay? We better get Golf with Friends FNAF Edition out for this, basically, okay? And if not, Steelwool and Scott, you can buy that idea off me, okay? Just like DM me on Instagram. Link is in the description. Finally, and at number 1, laser tag. Much like the mini golf, we know there's going to be a section for laser tag inside the Mega Pizzaplex. So, considering how there seems to be a day and night cycle, we better be able to play laser tag during the day or I'm going to be mad. This is like the one thing I want in this game. I don't care if we don't get go-karting or mini-golf or 8-bit mini-games, okay? As long as we can play laser tag, I'm fine with it. Yes, I'm that guy. I love laser tag. I grew up playing it. And if COVID wasn't a thing, I'd be a regular Barney Stinson playing it every other weekend, okay? Laser tag is like my favorite thing. It's fun, active, and I get to take out my anger by shooting lasers at little kids, okay? And especially given what the FNAF series has done to me, I think I've deserved that, okay? I think I've earned it. In my hometown, there was like this laser tag place called Laser Extreme, okay? And it was my favorite place to go. I'd go with my friend Nick, and we'd wreck kids using superheroes as code names, and then I'd go with my friend Cameron, and then that's where he got his nickname of Spike, and it's become a meme at this point, okay? Those were the days. It unfortunately closed, and I think it was partially due to COVID. And Laser Quest blows. It's bad, okay? Don't go to Laser Quest. But being able to play against animatronics in the Mega Pizzaplex will make me happy. It would be like the pirate ride in FNAF VR. It's all I would do in that game. And at 10, Glamrock Foxy. Speaking of not wanting to deal with additional lore, Glamrock Foxy would add a really unnecessary amount of just sheer annoyance to the game. At this point, Roxy is basically the love child of Foxy and Bonnie, and I say this every time. He even has a name that reflects the whole Foxy thing, okay? Since Roxy is just a combination of Rock and Foxy. I mean, like, I'm sure that's not intentional. Like, Roxy is an actual name that people have, but I figured that I'd mention it anyway because it's still like a combination of both words. And she plays the guitar, so there's a link to Bonnie. However, the main issue with this is just the fact that, like, Foxy is like a scarier Bonnie. I know all the die-hard Bonnie stans are gonna come for my balls or something in the comments, but like, hey, look, I get that Scott had nightmares about him, okay? But honestly, there's just no contest between these two characters. Bonnie isn't actually scary. Yet the Glamrock versions that I see for Foxy fit in well. And considering the Pirate Ride Easter egg that seemingly introduces another Foxy, I talk about that in the top 10 tiny details you missed in the FNAF Security Breach trailers video, we might very well get a special version of this OG animatronic. Or we might already have one running around and we just haven't seen him in the trailer. And at 9, Spider Ballora. Anyone who knows me knows I hate spiders. Big, small, poisonous, venomous, non-aggressive, any form of spider deserves to die, and if it's near me, hopefully it will. And while the Havoc puppet is messed up, if you know me, if you've watched any other fan videos, you'll know the Havoc puppet. The spider version of Ballora is literally called Spider Ballora, and I hate it with all my guts. While a couple of Nightmare Balloras have spider legs, this takes it to the next level. Her original form of crawling like a spider was already bad enough in my eyes, but now I have to deal with literally 3 eyes, 8 legs, a thorax, and 6 arms. What the hell? Man, why on God's green earth would you create this unholy monstrosity of a creature? Like, this is the kind of thing even Satan wouldn't approve of. When you die and you have to walk down the stairs to hell, Satan's gonna hide behind the gate and tell you to just keep walking. This is true horror, and I don't care what you think. You don't think it's scary? Good for you, but I'm not sleeping tonight. And with the introduction of the Music Man spider animatronic thing, whatever that unholy creation is, more spider animatronics, unfortunately, are now par for the course. And I don't want to deal with it. And at 8, Shadow Fredbear. Shadow Fredbear is almost perfectly intact, only burnt black in color, and he has a few rips on his body and is missing his left hand. The area around his mouth appears torn slightly as well, revealing a majority of his endoskeleton teeth, and his teeth and eyes glow, which makes it easier to see. Wonderful. Imagine if this animatronic had gums though. If he did, that would probably be the scariest thing on this list. But, like, the absolute monstrosity that would have been created just by giving this character gums is... I don't want to talk about it. My genius is sometimes terrifying. But, nonetheless, this is still creepy without gums, okay? Especially because this dude is... like, he looks like the FNAF VR jump scare that's just like the glowing eyes or nose and mouth that are like glowing red. It's like that, okay? It's weird. This dude is powerful, and he replaces most of the other animatronics on Night 5 of Final Nights 2. However, with the connections that Gregory and the Crying Child seem to share, perhaps Shadow Fredbear would be a way to enhance that connection further. Or it could be a hallucination or manifestation created by Glitchtrap in an effort to scare us into submission so he can be sacrificed or whatever the hell he wants from us. And at 7, 8-bit minigames. The 8-bit minigames are a staple in the FNAF community, and are some of the parts that reveal the most lore about the games. The 8-bit minigames revealed the first victim, the detailed origins of the puppet, and even what William did after killing Charlotte. The minigames have been incredibly helpful in figuring out the absolute bonkers lore of the series. The 8-bit minigames were even crucial in finding the good ending of FNAF 3, since we had to complete the Happiest Day minigame in order to get the good/canon ending and release the souls of the original 5 missing children. So these minigames have become an integral part of the series, and to omit them from this game would be a mistake and a disservice to the series that has been featured alongside God of War and Call of Duty because of the lore that built the fanbase. So there better be one, at least. And at 6, Twisted Funtime Freddy. While there are a plethora of twisted animatronics, both from the mind of Scott Cawthon and others, none are quite as terrifying as Twisted Funtime Freddy. Twisted Funtime Freddy combines the nightmare design of previous animatronics with basically everything else that you would find terrifying in an animatronic. Like, I don't know why the teeth have to be angled slightly outward, and like, I don't know what it is about this animatronic that makes it so much more terrifying than everything else, but it worked. It doesn't matter. Even if it's not pointed outward, I think the mixture of the visuals plus the thought of them also being able to move their face plates from being underground and still twisted but moving, it just, everything culminates in my brain and just causes panic. Like, it's like a sensory overload, but with FNAF, and honestly, that's what FNAF does to me nowadays. These are freaking nuts, and I don't know what it is about it. It's in essence a nightmare animatronic, but seems so much worse. Plus, it's a way to work in the different twisted animatronics into the game lore, including the canon ones and additional fan ones maybe. Halfway through into number 5, Corn Maze. Corn Maze is one of the most stressful games in all of FNAF VR, compared only to the likes of the hallway from that very same DLC. Corn Maze revolves around you walking through a maze made of walls, not corn, for some reason, in search of colored keys. These keys unlock their respectively colored gate and result in you winning. However, Grim Foxy is chasing you and he always knows where you are. The only way to really get him off your tail, pun intended, is to hide behind cardboard cutouts after he notices you. The maze is also filled with clusters of crows that will alert Foxy to your location if stepped on, which will result in him finding you faster, as well as scaring the living hell out of you. This game, in the same vein as the Help Wanted flat mode version, but controlled with a joystick and buttons, would work incredibly well, and you wouldn't have to find all 4 keys to unlock a secret one. You just don't have a secret one, and you're golden. Man, I'm a genius. In at 4, Nights At Freddy. This game could also serve as a link between game worlds if that's the plan. A breach in the security of the dimensional barrier, if you will. Scott would stretch a title like that, let's be honest. And Ignited Freddy is one of the main antagonists of the Joy of Creation fan game, which will have a new Ignited collection released as part of the Fazbear Fanverse initiative. In this game, you play as Scott Coffin, whose creations have escaped from the game and are coming after you. Ignited Freddy appears to be a burnt and charred Freddy Fazbear animatronic. He has no bottom jaw, he's exposed as endoskeleton's bottom set of rusty teeth. His left ear is also missing. Ignited Freddy, he wears a top hat though. We love a classy gentleman, like his original counterpart. Both of his hands are also missing, along with the suit on his shins and his left forearm. He has no real eyes, only black holes with white pupils, but adding this to the game could serve as a way to connect the fanverse to the main universe and get fans excited for the Fanverse Initiative games in an interesting way. Getting close to the end into number 3, post-game saving. Please, for the love of God, let us save the damn game after we beat it. Especially if the DLC has some decent story to it that involves us probably dying a bunch. Because I would rather not have to go through the whole 8-hour game again just to be able to play the DLC and be able to save. That's kind of insane. This is one of my biggest issues with the game. I get that it was for balancing purposes, but for real, this is something that needs to change. Freddy's power isn't even that good, so that alone can balance the whole he can see everything issue. Because his battery, even with the 2 upgrades, is trash. So for the love of God, please update the game to allow us to save or make it a feature in the new DLC. Even if it's like an option that we can enable in the menu or settings or something so that it can be our decision. Because I'm horrible at games, so I need to save. Especially since we can't save anywhere. Okay, we have to go to specific places to save. So that helps balance it too. Please. And ultimately, in at number 2, Glamrock Puppet. Every time I make a list discussing creepy animatronics, every single time, without fail, a freaking puppet makes it on the list. That's mostly because the puppets are freaking terrifying, man. And I feel like the phone guy whenever I talk about it, but like, the puppet is creepy. And the Glamrock Puppet is no exception. This character wasn't originated in the Fury's Rage game like I figured. Yes, I actually called it by its proper name this time. But instead, it's just a separate design. Just no matter what, it just looks like it wants to bring me to the back of the pizza joint to show me where it puts the salami. I don't mean literally, but like, you get what I mean. And not only does it come with its own creepy concept art, but it also comes with Minecraft skins, because of course it does. This is one of the weirdest versions of the puppet, not taking into account Scrap Puppet, Wither Puppet, or Reaper Puppet from Final Nights 3. Yet this design, it also still fits into Security Breach, and considering how we got a version in Fury's Rage, maybe we should get a version in the full game. Hopefully it doesn't float though. And finally, in at number 1, Glamrock Bonnie. I think the freakiest part about Glamrock Bonnie is the fact that they're not going to be in the game. So as far as I can tell, the only mention of Bonnie will be in the bowling alley that we probably aren't really going to get to use, but for the most part, like with the rest of the animatronics, these designs aren't really scary, well, aside from the Minecraft model. What's with people and making Minecraft animations for all these FNAF characters? The game hasn't even come out yet. Freaking Glamrock Puppet, freaking Glamrock Bonnie, just chill out. Either way, these versions, aside from one from a Twitter user called Manute Art, aren't really all that menacing, but the idea that people are creating additional animatronics is scary enough to me, because I don't want to deal with the additional lore that would come from that. But these designs are incredible, so maybe I could deal with it if it's just like one of these versions that was included in the game. Just make sure that it's like one of the first few you see, okay, Scott? Don't scroll down too much. Trust me, it's not worth it. The rules of the internet are there to protect you.